Fundamentals of Marksmanship, Part 3, Sight Alignment and Sight Picture. And that's what's coming up next on Into the Wind. So let's talk about our sight picture first. So this is more focused on the parallax or focus and having a crisp reticle. So the first thing we need to do is set up the scope if that's not already done. But that's going to be this little part, this diopter back here, and that is going to set it for your eyesight. So the best way to set this up to get a good sight picture is make a large adjustment on it. Get off of the rifle, let your eyes focus, and then typically what I like to do is just point it up in the air, get on target or get on the rifle, and just for a second or two. You don't want your eye to adjust to it because then it can make it look clearer than it is, and then make another large adjustment. Get off the rifle again, get back on, get back off. See if it's better or worse, and then just continue to do that until when you get on the rifle, it's perfectly set up for your eye. That's going to get your focus on the reticle the way it needs to be set. The next thing we need to do is actually set the parallax. Now this is going to be done at different ranges every time you shoot, and the parallax is the side focus piece here, or some people think of it as focus, but what it's doing is it's basically setting your parallax, meaning if it's not set properly, if you get onto the rifle and then actually just move your head around a little bit, and what you'll see if it's not properly set up is you're going to have your target and your reticle will actually move around. So once it's set properly, you'll move your head around and the target or the reticle will stay on target, and that's how you know your parallax is properly set up. Now the secondary part of that is that it's going to be focused properly. In certain conditions, you actually want to have it just a little bit out of focus so you can focus on the wind and make a wind call while you're shooting, but you don't want to have the reticle moving around on target. If it's not set up, what can happen is if you don't have proper sight picture and proper alignment, you can be off just a little bit, and that can throw your shots off pretty severely. Probably where you wouldn't miss, but they'll be pretty significantly far off. Also depends on how far you're shooting. So we want to make sure that the reticle is nice and crisp to our eye. And obviously if you're going to be wearing glasses or contacts, then you want to set it up with those contacts in or those glasses. Typically when I'm shooting, I will shoot without glasses but with contacts, so I have all my rifles set up with my contacts in. So when I don't have my contacts in and I'm looking through my rifle, it's a little bit fuzzy, but I don't typically shoot at least with my contacts. So however you plan on shooting is how you want to set that rifle up. So that is going to be our sight picture. That's making sure that the reticle is crisp. And let me roll in a couple pictures so you can see exactly how that looks. So one way to think about sight alignment is just like on a handgun. We need to have the front sight perfectly in center with the rear sight, perfectly lined up, no gap one side on the other, or one side that's larger than the other, perfectly even on top, everything exactly perfect. So a scope works this same way as well. So you want to make sure you don't have any kind of shadowing. You can get some shadowing on one side or the other if you don't have proper alignment. If you're too far or if you're too up close, you'll see your shadowing around the entire thing, even though you're even. It'll also cut off your field of view. So first what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna roll another picture just to kind of give a general idea of what that looks like and what we're looking for. So having perfect sight alignment and perfect sight picture is extremely important. So if you're seeing some shadowing on that right-hand side, it's going to mean that your scope, you're actually seeing the inside of the scope. So it means your scope is actually pointed a little bit to the left. So one of the things that this can cause is your groups to start grouping to the left. And then if you don't have your parallax set as well, that can cause some, it'll appear that it's moving one direction or the other. So that can actually throw your groups way off so far that you, with the two combined, you could start getting this very large pattern and getting some misses on the outside of that target as well. So it's really important to make sure that your parallax is set properly, that you have proper sight picture and sight alignment. So these things are extremely important. So now we know what some of this stuff is that we don't want. Let me roll in a couple pictures of exactly what we are looking for. The one way to ensure that we have proper sight alignment and sight picture is to make sure that we have our rifles set up properly. So if you watched the original video of how to set up a rifle, I told you that once we got into the fundamentals of marksmanship, you may actually have to go back and reset up the rifle because it may not be done properly. So we still got one more step to cover when we get into as far as fundamentals of marksmanship, and that's going to bring a little bit more clarity to this. But for right now, let's go ahead and get on the rifle. And typically what I like to do is I'll just go ahead and close my eyes and get on the rifle comfortably. Once I'm on the rifle, I'll open my eyes and I can see that I'm looking perfectly right down the scope. It's a little dark in here, so closing one eye kind of helps a little bit, but I do have both eyes open. And I can see the reticle nice and clear. I'm getting no shadowing. And it's perfectly set up. So in order to get a perfectly set up rifle, you have to get on the rifle comfortably, and that's where we start getting our natural point, part of our natural point of aim, and we'll cover that in the next video. But we really need to have a solid base. We need to have our scope set up in the proper position, not too far forward, not too far back. And then we also need to make sure that our eyepiece is set up correctly. That way, every time we get on, we get into our natural position on the rifle, that we're perfectly into the scope every single time. Now, if you get on the rifle and you see that you might have to scooch forward a little bit, or you have to scoot back, or you got to move your head up or down just a little bit to see it, then we're not going to have proper sight picture and sight alignment. We're having to move, and that's what we want to avoid. We want to get on the rifle, and when we're on the rifle, it should be perfect every time, in the same position every single time. So when we come off and we get back on, perfect. We're going to get off the rifle and get back on, and we have perfect sight picture and sight alignment every time. It's also a good idea while you're doing this to go ahead and move your reticle a little bit, move your power. So we're going to back it all the way down, get off the rifle, get back on. Now we've got perfect sight alignment. And then we're going to zoom it in about halfway, come off. I can either push it way out here, get back on the rifle, and again, I've got perfect sight alignment. Now we'll go ahead and zoom it all the way in to our 27 power, get off the rifle. We can move it around, whatever we need to do, bring it back in, onto the rifle, and again, even in that high-powered magnification, I'm still perfectly centered, no scope shadowing. So this is done because my rifle is properly set up. So it's important when we obtain perfect sight alignment and sight picture to have the rifle properly set up. And we're good.